So the present market condition, we've identified the present market condition. We are working under the assumption that this balance area breakout is proving to be a false breakout. So we use that information to adjust our strategy and adjust our tactics, right? That's trading market condition. As you know, other traders are completely lost at this point. They have no clue what to do or why to do it. They have no clue where to put a stop. They have no clue what a logical target is. They have no basis for making consistent decisions. You do. Okay, now we're getting ready. You know that the day has passed, and now we don't want to lose context. It's very easy, remember, to lose context and to get caught in noise. And most trading is noise, right? This is an extremely noisy situation. So to try to define it, we want to use the larger degree time frames to help us to define it, to define what's going on. So we come back and then we begin to look at the other information from the longer term time frame. Now, what do we see here? You see a market, but you see a potential false breakout. And another very powerful auction, excuse me, artifact what's this? Potentially. It's a selling tail. What is a selling tail? A selling tail is what you call it. What is it? It's rejection of price. And it's also a signal of conviction, and really conviction only can manifest itself by overwhelming buying or selling, and the only party that's capable of overwhelming buying or selling is big money, right? So if the big money is creating this, now, you know, the technical definition of a selling tail or a buying tail, you can't really say this is a selling tail until the next period in this time frame completes. Just so you know, that's the technical definition. We actually had, in the stock market today, we had an interesting situation with potential selling tails. It's quite a head fake at the highs today, but that's a topic for another time. So if we're doing our homework and we're getting ready, you know, trying to identify the opportunity, and now, quite frankly, even if I've been stopped out of the long trade here, and I have to delay my internet shopping spree another day or two, this is an even better opportunity because it's a higher probability situation. Every time a market tests the extremes and it fails at that extreme, makes it more and more likely that the other extreme is going to break for sure. Well, you don't say for sure, but you get my point. And when you have a false breakout, it's an even higher probability situation. Okay, now this is the profile view of this. This is, you know, this is anything special. You know, you really don't have great information when you look at this, do you? But this is what your market profile trader is looking at. So we're always looking at charts to get the best read on what the auction is doing. That is your edge. We want to be aware of the different time frames and the differences in perspective we get from both the profile view as the market view. And you know, this auction process is dynamic. You know, if you will naturally be adjusting your analysis along with the market because that's what it requires. This methodology is not going to let you comfortably form an opinion that just flies in the face of these concepts. It will be incongruent. You will not be able to hold that. It's an opposing thought. So it will help you become more, over time, you'll find yourself much more objective about what markets are doing. Because you're just simply, your job is to read the auction. You're looking for opportunity. You're analyzing the market through the lens of a trader. You're analyzing the market through the lens, the worldview of auction market concepts. And you're not indignant that the Canadian dollar didn't follow through. You're excited because now what it's even more likely to do is to give an even better opportunity with a greater expectancy to the downside. So now, if we split out the profile, and basically what this is doing is giving us the view of a bar chart, this is helpful. This is good information. We can see the selling tail. And actually, there's a lot of conviction all the way into the close. Okay, now, Raj, you talked me out of my entry. Gosh. Remember, we were up here. Now, we come in. Oops, where's my? We come in, we left the market and it was up here. And now it's traded all the way down here overnight. Happens all the time. I hate it when that happens. And we find ourselves and the market comes, we come in the morning, whatever time it is, and here's the market. Now, what do we do? Troy, you do nothing. Any takers here? David, you have a good point. It's a clear false breakout situation developing. I agree with that. It is clear that it's that a high probability event. Now, the high volume node of this is in here, but really what's most important at this point in time is not some glob of volume that exists in here. It's the conviction. You're trading now against the conviction. And, David, the reality is the conviction begins all the way up here. So if I go short here at this point in time, I'm either guessing at a stop between here and here or my stop goes here. Now, this is a high probability situation. I'm not saying not to do that. That's an alternative. I don't think you have to do that. And here's another consideration, David. If I pass on going short here with stopping this out here, even though this is a high probability situation, even if I end up selling this market down here, I keep zapping my tool. Even if I end up selling this market down here, gosh, and have to put a stop here, it's still less risk than entering here with a stop up here. And the trade, and the reality of it is the trade is no less probable. That's just an alternative. I'm not saying this is wrong. And really, you shouldn't, if this is a false breakout trade, and this is most certainly conviction, you really shouldn't see this retrace. So you do have a high probability just pulling the trigger here, but you don't have to do it. Guys, this brings up a really good point. Trade this to your comfort level as it is at this point in time. You don't have to stretch. If you're comfortable selling this right here now, do it. That's fine. If you're not, you don't have to do it. There's more than one entry as you go through this, and you'll see that. A couple points. No one trade is going to make or break you. There's going to be another opportunity. And don't force things. Right now, just learn the process. You can afford to wait for the ideal setup that you're comfortable with as you watch the market and your understanding of how this stuff plays out increases from a screen-based experience of looking at the market through this lens. Now, I don't care how long you've been trading. If you've been trading 10 years, you're still looking at the market from a different perspective here, and it's going to take some time to get used to it. Or if you're brand new to the market, it's the same thing. Trade to your comfort level. You don't have to trade, feel that you're missing something and that you have to trade all the nuances and all the vagaries and ambiguous situations that are inevitably going to arise. Okay, so Troy's going to wait. Troy is, and this is absolutely true, one of the most disciplined traders you're ever going to meet. And it's a great thing. He's extremely disciplined. Okay, Troy's discipline has paid off. Now what do we do? And David, you know what? If you went short, you're fine too at this point. You can certainly lower your stop now. James, when you say you're not seeing the false breakout, I'm glad you brought that up. The false breakout, this was an initiative attempt to trade higher. And the false breakout, the assumption was when this market failed to follow through here and left the selling tail that it left on the daily chart, obviously as well as the profile chart, and then traded back down here. The assumption at this point is that this is a false breakout. So we're trading a false breakout situation, and the false breakout situation calls for a retracement of this range and a fraction of the time it took to create it. And potentially, not just a retracement to test this area, but an initiative situation that breaks out of this balance area to the downside and continues lower. Okay, so here we are. We're right here. What do we do? If you're not in this trade, what do you do? This is one you got to take. It's just you have to take. This is about as rote as it gets. You got to take this trade. You got to go. You have to short this. So you short it somewhere in here, and you put your stop, here. Now, if I short it here, my risk is to here. Now, here's the low down here. Well, let's just be to 99. So this is not, this is maybe 2 to 1. That's not, lights out. But the reality is, guys, these initiative breaks, and because this failed, it makes it more likely that you're not just going to trade the 99 and bottom and go back up. You could, but it's not likely. You have a 2 to 1, just a 99, 2 to 1 or better. But what you really have is something more in lines of 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1. So these are the trades you take. You have a mature structure. You have a potential false breakout trade with just a bell-ringing classic textbook signal. You have a balance area at a key reference area in a market condition, both in terms of structure and time. This is a mature structure, and this is a mature structure. So you have 2 degrees of mature structures and 2 degrees of time. There's so many things here that this is a pretty cut and dried situation. And the cut and dried situations, occur a fair amount. Market condition, this is a good question, Michael. Market condition and market structure. Market condition is a function of, or market structure is a function of market condition. They're actually overlapping market conditions in here, okay? You have balance of a large degree. You have imbalance of a similar degree as a balance, and this is the most recent market condition. It's imbalance, and it is occurring at a point in time and within market structure that gives it the priority. And then you have a market condition of a smaller degree time frame of balance that enables you to trade the large degree time frame or market condition of a vertical trend that could be just beginning. That's a great question. Is that helpful? Did you guys understand that? That Michael just asked a great question. Okay, moving along. James, his question was, he's a little confused about market condition and market structure. What's the difference? And I answered it. So, this is going to be recorded. You can go back and you can listen to it. And please do that. This is turning into a really good example. And part of the reason it's so good is because you guys are paying attention. You're asking the right questions. This is important stuff. Go back and listen to this. And then if you have questions next week, this is critical stuff. Okay, so I think we're all of a mind that we're short here. Oh, that's not the thing I wanted. That's okay. Right? So let's see what happens. Yeah, okay. Now, if we're looking at this from an expectancy perspective, and this is something I don't whip out a calculator when I put on a trade. You don't need to, frankly. I mean, you need to understand what you can afford to risk, and you never exceed the magnitude, the dollar amount you can afford. But you don't want to, you don't want to be sitting here with a calculator working through some sort of sophisticated equation to decide whether or not to take the trade. This trade has an inherent positive expectancy. I'm risking a tiny bit to catch an initiative situation. I've got about as defined a market condition with all the market structure variables lined up as I can ever get. This is a great trade, even if it doesn't work. So I've got $100 risk, my minimum potential is a multiple of that. And then here's the resolution. Now this is what you want to see. This is what you are looking for up here. And note, and this is another. Oh, let me get my annotation thing here. You got in here. You took 0 heat, and the thing traded exactly as it, quote unquote, should if it's initiative, and just absolutely cratered. Now, Christine and some of you others, that when we were having the discussion up here, this is the reason that if I get in a situation, I will sort of lay back, so to speak, and I won't get too eager to tighten my stop here. I want to give the market some room. I know that in all degrees of time, we have this auction process, which includes rotation, i.e., it's going to invariably include some retracement. And just because this market spikes down and then it retraces did not invalidate the idea that it's going to go a whole lot lower. So I want to be able to, as a general rule, give my trade some room to breathe. So if I'm in here and this market trades to here, now at this point, there's no way I'm going to let it come back to here, because it's tried to break out here, it failed. It's trying to break out here. There is just, I'm trading market condition. This market should not bungee jump back now against me. And invariably it's going to do that, and the trade just didn't work. It wasn't the trade I wanted or expected, so I'm out. But I made a little bit of money, no harm, no foul, I move on. So when I see this, I'll lower my stop here. And then when I see this, then I'll come down a little bit more. Now, 2 points here. I want to address Kim and I want to address Robert. At this point, this is a situation, Kim, if you're in here and let's say you've got 2 contracts on, and you see this market completely fall out of bed. If you're trading one contract, you can start trailing a tight stop. And if you're inclined to take a 3-to-1 reward to risk, when it hits $300, go to a 5-minute chart and start trailing a stop. And you won't get stopped out until here, and you picked up another $100 on that contract that you wanted to get out of. So if you can do it, if you want to take a partial profit at a multiple of your risk, fine. But don't understand, you don't have to there's more than one way to do it. You can go down in time frame to a more granular view and start trailing that tight stop. And more times than not, you'll find yourself taking that contract off with more than you thought you were going to be able to if you had just pulled the plug when it reached 3-to-1. And the best way to build 2 things, confidence and a smaller account, is when you get in these situations is to do just that. If you get a situation like this and the market is trending and you've got one contract on, you really have to catch those 3-to-1 trades, because a lot of 3-to-1 trades will come back against you substantially. So start trailing, if you're trading one contract, start trailing a tight stop and be willing to build your account so that you can get to the point that you're trading 2 contracts. And the other thing is, you know, you don't have to get in here and get out here for this to work. You know, you had a straight shot to a 3-to-1 reward to risk. You know, when the market revisited its low here, you could have begun trailing a stop on your remaining position or your entire position or part of the position here. And you wouldn't have been taken out if you continued to trail the stop. And I realize we're probably into some Globex stuff in here, but a lot of times this will occur during the day. The concept still applies. You know, you'll get that 10-to-1 trade. It's not unusual, guys, to get these 10-to-1 trades, but you never get them unless you're aware they're out there and unless you use money management, smart money management strategies and tactics. And you can be smart with your money management and your strategies and your tactics without having to just rote pull the trigger because you have 2-to-1 reward to risk, or rote pull the trigger because you have 3-to-1 reward to risk. And to the greatest degree possible, you want to put yourself in the position to fall into the occasional big winning trade. And this methodology will do that if you let it. But a lot of times we will all get in the way of it and try to fine-tune things, get too tight with stops and things like that. Any questions about this? I mean, this is, I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that what I just showed you is some walk in the park that, you know, everybody and their brother should, you know, be able to turn on a computer screen and see and understand. It's not. It really isn't. This is going to take some time and some screen time and some experience, but you've got you have wonderful resources, not the least of which is Troy in this live trade room. If you will listen to Troy, he is talking about this every single day. If you'll look at the reports, if you will look at the trade lessons, if you'll look at the member webinars, this is what this is about. You can learn this. I promise you, you can learn this. But I also promise you, it's not nearly as easy as we're making it look tonight. I know that. This is you know, I have the benefit of hindsight and identifying the example, and I don't want to mislead you into thinking that, you know, this is some easy walk in the park. But it is valid, and this stuff, you know, recurs over and over and over again in all markets. And I'm going to show you a bunch more examples and case studies like this, so you'll see them. But over time, you will begin to recognize these things, and you will begin to recognize the nuances of this stuff. I mean, there are trades in here that we're not even talking about. You know, this was a tradable situation. You had a selling tail up here. You had a balance area here. You know, you had this spike here. Now, this is something you would never sell. This is just a spike into the dark. You have no idea what's going on at this point. But when you come up here, you have a better idea. You know, you have a market right here. You have a buying tail here. And you have all this volume here. This is a high volume node. So there are an infinite number of ways to trade this, and the information you have to trade any market that you choose to trade and to carry it to any level of sophistication that your aptitude allows you to carry it is available by just understanding the things that we've talked about tonight and the 2 or 3 things that we have left to cover. Raj, you're a great example. Now, you've been diligently trading this for, what, a year? Longer than a year and a half? How long? Almost 2 years? And would you say that your knowledge and your understanding of this is continuing to increase? And Raj, what do you do in your other life? What is your profession? So Raj is an orthopedic trauma surgeon. Raj has mastered organic chemistry and other fun things, and is a practicing physician. He's obviously an extremely bright individual. He's obviously a driven, disciplined, patient, organized, type A, driven person. And he's telling you that after 2 years, he's still understanding how to apply this stuff. And you know, Raj, I hope I'm not stepping outside of boundaries here by talking about you. But you're an ideal student of the market. You know, Raj has taken this stuff and really studies it and really tries to apply it and keeps records, and yeah, is just a perfect example of the process that traders go through to learn this stuff. Raj, so do I. Okay, so Raj says he still has more to learn in applying it and executing. So do I. We're all in this together.